In some families, the person who causes the damage is never placed on trial. The person who speaks about the damage is. You enter the room carrying facts. You leave the room defending your tone. You explain what happened, and they ask why you cannot forget it. You describe the pain, and they remind you that the person responsible is still your mother, your father, your partner, your brother, your sister, or someone the family cannot afford to lose. They do not investigate what was done to you. They investigate your reaction to it. And slowly, something disturbing becomes clear. The family may not be confused about who caused the damage. They may simply have decided that you are easier to confront. This episode is not based on an invented psychological theory, recycled social media language, or information fabricated by artificial intelligence. We developed this documentary using published psychological research examining family responses, caregiver protection, interpersonal violence disclosures, and the consequences of being disbelieved. The research concerns serious forms of interpersonal harm. We will not misuse it to label every family disagreement as abuse. But it reveals something important about what can happen when telling the truth threatens the relationship's security and identity of an entire family. Stay until the end, because we are going to identify the questions that reveal whether a family is genuinely confused or whether it has chosen protection over accountability. If you value psychology without comforting lies, subscribe to Mind Trap. Now let us enter the room most families never want opened. A family is not simply a collection of people who share blood. It is a network of emotional, financial, social, and practical dependencies. One person may provide the money, another may control the home. Someone may carry the family's public reputation. Someone else may decide who is welcomed, who is excluded, and which version of the family's history is allowed to survive. That means the truth never enters an empty room. It enters a structure. When you reveal that one important person has caused serious damage, the family is not only being asked to judge that person's behavior, it is being asked to accept everything that judgment could destroy. Believing you may mean ending a marriage, losing an income, leaving a home, dividing relatives, admitting that a respected parent was not the person everyone believed them to be. It may require someone to admit that they saw warning signs and remained silent. It may force years of family history to be reinterpreted. And when the cost of acknowledging the truth feels unbearable, some families do not confront the truth. They begin negotiating with the person who revealed it. Research involving severe abuse cases gives us one of the clearest views of this mechanism because family responses can be documented and examined. A study analyzing 164 reported child sexual abuse cases found that non-offending caregivers were significantly less supportive when the alleged offender was more closely related to the child. Greater caregiver support was also connected with shorter delays before formal disclosure. This does not mean every closely related caregiver will protect an offender, but it reveals a brutal complication. The closer the accused person is to the family, the more emotionally and practically expensive belief may become. A larger study published in 2024 examined 500 case files randomly selected from 4 prosecutors' offices. Researchers separated caregiver support into different behaviors: believing the child, protecting the child, supporting prosecution, and whether authorities filed a neglect report against the caregiver. When the alleged offender was the caregiver's romantic partner, that caregiver was less likely to believe and protect the child. Think about what that means. Evidence does not enter the mind alone. It arrives attached to consequences. The mind begins calculating what must be lost if the evidence is accepted. This is where cognitive dissonance becomes important. Cognitive dissonance occurs when someone is forced to hold 2 beliefs that cannot comfortably exist together. My partner is a good person. My child says my partner caused serious harm. My family is safe. Something dangerous has been happening inside it. I am a protective parent. I failed to see what was happening. The person can reduce this psychological conflict by changing their understanding of the accused. But that would threaten their relationship, history, security, and perception of themselves. The other option is psychologically cheaper. Question the person who spoke. Maybe they misunderstood. Maybe they exaggerated. Maybe their memory is unreliable. Maybe they are angry, jealous, unstable, disrespectful, or trying to divide the family. The evidence has not disappeared. It has been reassigned to a version of reality the family can survive. This is why denial is not always an absence of information. Sometimes denial is information that has become too expensive to accept. Acknowledging the damage can also expose the people who failed to stop it. If you are telling the truth, someone may have to ask why they did not notice, why they ignored your change in behavior, why they defended that person before learning what happened, why they kept inviting them back, why they told you to remain quiet, why maintaining peace mattered more than discovering what the peace was hiding. Accepting your experience may require them to confront their own inaction. That produces guilt. And guilt does not always create accountability. Sometimes it creates defensiveness. Instead of saying, "I should have protected you," they say, "Why didn't you tell me differently?" Instead of asking what happened, they ask why you waited. Instead of confronting the person who created the wound, they examine whether you presented the wound politely enough. Your tone becomes the distraction. Your timing becomes the distraction. Your anger becomes the distraction. Anything can become the subject, as long as the original behavior no longer is. Then power enters the equation. The person responsible may be aggressive, influential, financially necessary, socially respected, or emotionally dangerous to challenge. The harmed person may be quieter, more forgiving, more dependent, more willing to explain, more likely to absorb one more insult without destroying the household. So the family applies pressure where it expects the least resistance, not necessarily because everyone consciously gathers and designs a plan. Human beings can participate in protection patterns without admitting, even to themselves, what they are protecting. They simply learn that confronting one person creates chaos, while confronting the other produces compliance. Over time, the family chooses the safer confrontation. That is why the most reasonable person in a dysfunctional family can receive the most unreasonable demands. They are told to be mature, to understand, to forgive, to stop living in the past, to consider what exposure would do to the family. But the person responsible is rarely asked to demonstrate the same maturity. Their anger is treated as dangerous. Your anger is treated as inappropriate. Their silence is interpreted as dignity. Your distress is presented as evidence that you are unstable. Composure is mistaken for innocence, while emotional pain is treated like guilt. But emotional control does not prove that someone is telling the truth, and emotional distress does not prove that someone is lying. Sometimes the person responsible appears calm because the system has always protected them. The wounded person appears emotional because they are being forced to prove their reality in front of people who benefit from rejecting it. Watch what happens when the family begins speaking. You know what they are like. They had a difficult childhood. They did not mean it that way. Why are you trying to destroy this family? Think about what people will say. You need to forgive. None of these statements examine the behavior. They manage the consequences of exposing it. The family changes the question from "What did this person do?" to "What will happen to us if you continue talking?" That change is the protection. It is also important to understand that support is not one single behavior. Someone can say, "I believe you," while continuing to give the person responsible, unrestricted access to you. Someone can express sympathy while refusing to change anything, Someone can privately admit what happened, but publicly defend the family's reputation. Someone can cooperate with authorities while emotionally pressuring the harmed person to remain silent at home. Words of belief are not the same as protection. Protection requires behaviour. It removes access. It establishes consequences. It prioritizes safety over appearances. It does not demand that the wounded person continue participating in the same environment simply to prove that they have forgiven everyone. Forgiveness is also frequently misused in these families. Forgiveness may be a personal decision about releasing hatred. Reconciliation is the rebuilding of a relationship. They are not the same thing. Reconciliation requires truth, accountability, changed behavior, and safety. When a family demands reconciliation without those conditions, it is not asking for healing. It is asking for the old arrangement to be restored. The family may call that peace. But peace created by silencing the injured person is not peace. It is preserved disorder, and the psychological consequences can be severe. A 2019 meta-analysis examined 1,871 statistical findings drawn from 51 studies on disclosures of interpersonal violence. Negative reactions were consistently associated with worse psychological outcomes. Reactions involving controlling the survivor, distracting them from what happened, and treating them differently were especially harmful. The researchers could not conclude that these reactions directly caused every psychological outcome. But the pattern was clear and consistent. What happens after someone reveals interpersonal harm can become part of the injury itself. Positive words did not automatically cancel the effects of negative treatment. That matters because the second wound is different from the first. The original damage tells you that one person was unsafe. The family's response can make you question whether anyone is safe. You may begin doubting your memory, replaying conversations, collecting evidence, over-explaining minor details, imagining the perfect sentence that would finally make everyone understand. But sometimes the problem is not that you have failed to explain the truth. The problem is that accepting your truth would require them to change their lives. No perfect explanation can remove that cost. So if you are trying to understand what is happening inside your family, stop asking only, why can't they see it? Ask, what would they have to lose if they admitted it? Who controls the money, housing, reputation, or emotional atmosphere? Do family members examine the harmful behavior or only criticize how you reacted to it? Are they searching for truth or searching for a version of events that allows everything to continue? Do their promises produce protection and change, or only temporary words? Are they more disturbed by the damage or by the possibility that other people may discover it? These questions do not automatically prove guilt. They reveal incentives, and incentives often explain behavior more accurately than family titles do. The next step is not endlessly presenting evidence to a family courtroom whose verdict may have been decided before you entered. Move from persuasion to observation. Document repeated behavior when necessary. Seek perspectives from qualified professionals or trustworthy people who are outside the family's dependency system. Establish boundaries based on what people repeatedly do, not what they promise during emotional conversations. A boundary does not require the family's agreement. It defines what behavior will have access to your life. This does not mean every difficult relative must be immediately abandoned. People can be frightened, misinformed, or slow to understand. Some family members reconsider their position when they receive reliable information. But confusion looks for answers. Protection looks for silence. A confused person asks what happened. A protective system asks what it will cost if you continue speaking. That is the difference. And if the situation involves ongoing abuse, violence, threats, or immediate danger, psychological understanding is not enough. Seek appropriate professional, legal, or emergency support where you live. Do not rely entirely on the people whose security depends upon keeping the situation unchanged. The hardest truth may be that your family did not protect that person because the evidence against them was weak. They may have protected them because their position inside the family was too valuable, too powerful, or too dangerous to challenge. They protected a marriage, an income, a home, a reputation, a history they were not ready to rewrite. They protected their innocence from the guilt of knowing they should have acted sooner. And because you were the person asking them to face it, they began treating you like the threat. But their refusal to acknowledge reality does not rewrite reality. A family can vote against the truth. It cannot make the truth disappear. You may never receive the confession, apology, or collective acknowledgement that you deserve. Your healing cannot remain dependent upon people who require your silence to maintain their comfort. You are allowed to stop explaining. You are allowed to judge relationships by their behavior. You are allowed to protect yourself before the family agrees that protection is necessary. And you are allowed to leave the courtroom. Because sometimes freedom begins when you realize that you were never failing to prove your case. You were presenting it to people who could not afford to let you win. If this documentary gave language to something you have struggled to understand, subscribe to Mind Trap. Here, we do not invent comfortable answers. We investigate what the human mind does when the truth becomes dangerous, and when protecting an illusion becomes easier than protecting a person. This is Mind Trap, and the truth remains true, even when the entire family turns away from it.